by saying I'm extremely, extremely happy to be here. And yes, I am going to speak English. My whole speech will be in English, my slides will be in English. The title of my presentation is Be a Global Speaker. Because my 20 minutes, my one and only goal is that you are going to leave saying, I want to be a global speaker too. I'm going to be a global speaker too. So why am I doing it in English? I'm doing it just like, Magnus, where are you?
Hello.
Sam. There is, actually someone said it this morning. Someone said it in the last meeting we had in Alcohol. Someone said, oh, but I'm not so good in English. I'm doing this in English to show you that you can be a very, very global speaker and you can suck at English. Hans Rosling, 2 words, Hans Rosling. And I would say one of the people I have shared the stage with, that I am the proudest to have shared the stage with, is Hans Rosling. I adore him. He's a wonderful, wonderful speaker and a wonderful, wonderful man. But let's be honest, he's not trying to hide his Swedish accent, okay? If Hans Rosling can do it, anyone can do it. And therefore, I am going to speak English, because that, to show you, we can do it. And we are good at it. We are good in Sweden. Much better than most people are. And here's the thing. A friend of mine, Heather Hansen, who is a speaker on how to speak English. She's an English-speaking coach. She told me this figure. Only 4% of the conversations that happen between 2 people in English, only 4% of them are between 2 people who are both native in the English language. 96% of all the conversations that happen in English is between at least one person who is not native in the English language. Which means we are in a vast majority. They should not tell us how to speak English. They should show us some respect. And to be honest, I do about more than 90% of my speeches are now in English. And I cannot tell you how many times that in the evaluation, after the conference, the evaluation is that they understood you, they did not understand the Brit. Or they didn't understand the guy from Scotland, or they didn't like the guy from America. So, that's my first thing. I'm going to do it in English, and I hope that's okay. But what am I going to do? I'm going to speak about what it means to be a global speaker, why you should be a global speaker, and most importantly, how to become a global speaker. So, let's start by what it means. To be honest, I have been a speaker for almost 20 years. Next year it will be 20 years. But for the last 10 years, I was a Swedish speaker. I spoke in Sweden and in Finland and Denmark, and that's what I did, just like you. In 2005, I moved from Sweden to China, and I became a Swedish and Chinese speaker. But in 2008, I left China and moved to Singapore, and then I did not become a Singaporean speaker. I became a global speaker. So I've been a global speaker for about 7 years, but I know the difference. You know what it means to be a Swedish speaker, but what does it mean to be a global speaker? So I thought the best way to illustrate this is that I sat down, and this is what I'm going to do today. I sat down the last few weeks and I went through what was my last year about. Because I don't want to have theories or theories about how to do something. I said, let's look at how my last year actually looked like. And I will soon tell you how I got these speeches. But first, we have to understand what it means to be a global speaker. So here it is. It's 1 minute. Are you ready? Yeah. Here we go. 10th of September last year to 10th of September today. That was 30 countries, 1 month. Of course, many of these countries I did more than once. For example, Germany 4 times, India 4 times, Russia 2 times, and so on. I travel like a maniac. Some interesting statistics that I find interesting. I have more time in the air than a commercial airline pilot. There is an unconfirmed rumor that the Swedish passport police has me on a blacklist of the 20 people in Sweden who are most suspected of doing human trafficking. by issuing more passports and giving them to their relatives. Because I am apparently one of the 20 people in Sweden that has to use the most passports, but I haven't lost a single one. I just use them up with stamps. I do not do trafficking. I had 3 around the world tickets in 6 weeks last year. I've been in 50 countries in the last 10 years. Travel like a maniac. So how did I get that? I will soon share that to you. But before I do that, I need to add something else. Because I just posted a video similar to this one on YouTube, and then a person emailed you and said, I pity your wife, and I pity your children. And I think it's very important, if you're going to do a speech about what it means to be a global speaker, that you get people to understand that there is not a conflict. So I sat down and I counted. I counted the number of hours that I was away from my kids. Because I have 2 small kids. One is 3.5 and one is 1.5. And I have a wonderful wife and I don't want to lose them. But here's the thing, you can have both. As you can see, I didn't shave today. Because I have been on a 10 weeks maternity leave. The last 10 weeks I've been sitting there. Right there. If you turn around, that's the island, right there. For 10 weeks in a row. So, here's the thing. If you are a normal working man, meaning you work 8 hours per day and you travel to work, commute to work 1 hour, 30 minutes going there, 8 hours work, 1 hour lunch, 30 minutes going back, you have 5 weeks vacation, which is a lot, but for a Swede it's normal. And you you sleep 8 hours per night. You have less than 2,700 hours with your family, your kids, and your hobbies. During the last 12 months, I have more than 2,800 hours with my kids, my family, and my hobbies. I have more times with my family than someone who works 9 to 5. How do I do that? Because I had 5 months off where I didn't travel at all. 10 weeks recently, all of April, half of December, half of January, half of September, and 2 more weeks. And I think my children are much more happy to see me 10 weeks in a row, being very relaxed, and then I'm gone for a while. It's the number of hours you spend with your kid, not 2 hours every night when you come home and you're tired. So you can do both. Now, let's look how you do it. Because that's why you're here. You want to know how I don't want to do that many speeches, or I don't want to travel that much. I don't care. How did I get all these speeches? And people think, oh, you must be so good in marketing, or you must do so much selling, or you're good on social media. No, I suck. Okay? I suck at all of that. But what I did do was that I sat down on all of those 80 speeches that I did last year, which is half of the number of speeches I did when I lived in Sweden. I did 199 speeches in 1 year when I lived in Sweden. But this year I only do 80. But I make more money now than when I did 199 speeches. Because you can charge more if you're a global speaker. So all of these 80 speeches that I did in 30 different countries, I sat and went through every single one of them and I said, how did I get this speech? And now it turned out there were 5 different ways to get them. And that's what I'm going to share with you. These 5 ways to get speeches globally. Here's the first one. Old references. I did a speech in Serbia just in June for a guy who heard me speak in Sweden 12 years ago. And who, after he worked in the same company, he just switched, and now it actually was the Swedish government. He worked for the Swedish government, he now worked for the embassy in Serbia, and he said, oh, I remember Fredrik. I remember this guy. I am going to call him, and he calls me, or emails me. He said, can you come and do a speech for us? We have a Nordic day in Serbia, can you come? So of course I can. That's the most common way that I got it. Someone heard me speak and wants to hear me speak again. Another speech I got was a guy who I met 19 years ago, who emailed me and said, "Are you doing speeches?" "Yes, I am. Can you come and speak for me?" That's by far the most common thing. Second most common way that I got these speeches is references of references. For example, I did a speech for Danske Bank in Denmark because I did a speech for Danske Bank in Sweden, and one woman in the audience loved the speech and told her husband when she came back to dinner in the evening, and we had this wonderful speaker, and it was just amazing. The guy says, "What's his name?" And he turns out he also works for Danske Bank in Denmark. So he calls me and said, "Can you come to Denmark?" And of course I can. Another one I did was, one of those speeches I did in Germany was for the Global Sales and Marketing Conference of Volkswagen globally. Here's the thing, I did the same conference last year. 2 years in a row I spoke at the Global Sales and Marketing Conference for Volkswagen. But it turns out that one heard me speak at the last year conference, and he doesn't work at Volkswagen anymore. He switched to BMW. So this guy was a very high manager in Volkswagen, but he starts to work for BMW. Now BMW is going to have a Global Sales and Marketing Conference, and he remembered the speech he heard. The lesson here is that if people really like a speech, they will talk about it. And they will talk about it with their friends. And that's how it spreads. Third most common reason that I got a speech, return business. For example, who was asking? You were asking me about return business. Not so much, I don't try so hard to get it, but I did a speech for a company called Mega in Thailand. They're huge on vitamins and pills like that. I did a speech for them in Thailand, and we're sitting down before the speech, having lunch with the client, and I just want to know more about this company because I find it a very inspiring and cool company. And they say, yeah, we have business in Yemen and in Saudi Arabia and in Myanmar. And the guy says, "You should go to Yemen and speak for us." And I said, "How about Myanmar?" So he said, "Yeah, why not?" And he decides to bring me into Myanmar. That's a repeat business, but from the same company, but in a different country. Fourth most common way I got business. Agencies. I work with all the agencies in Sweden. I don't get so much work for them because I don't live in Sweden anymore. It's very expensive to now fly me from from Singapore to Sweden. Just the ticket is more than most clients in Sweden are willing to pay. But I do work with some other agencies, not as many as Magnus does. Magnus is the expert on agencies. You want to learn, you talk about it. I work with a few agencies, but still, I work with one in Singapore, one in Hong Kong, a few in Europe, but not that many. It's less than all the others. The lesson with that, of course, is that agencies are now looking for speakers for global conferences and European conferences. They are now looking for speakers who have spoken on other global conferences. That's how it works. It becomes a niche. It's a niche in itself to have spoken in many countries, because a global company or a multinational company, they want speakers who have spoken everywhere. Fifth most common way I got business. YouTube. But please note that out of those 80 speeches, 3 came from YouTube. One was in Bangladesh. A marketing conference in Bangladesh, the largest marketing and branding conference in Bangladesh. Saw me on YouTube and booked me. The 6th most common way I got business is everything else. Now what is the common denominator here?
Relationships.
No. I have 0 relationships in my life. I don't send New Year's letters. I don't even have a database of clients. Okay, I have a mail program, but I don't know how to use the contact part of it. Right? I have 0 relationship with anyone. I don't know how to do follow-up business. I don't know how to follow. I don't know where their birthday is. I don't know the name of the wife. I do 0. This is not through relationships. This is through
good speeches.
Correct. The only way that you get business, or the only way you should get business if you are a speaker, is because someone comes up to you afterwards and says, that was an amazing speech, can you come and do that for me? Or, I heard you speak, or someone told me about you. If you do a great speech, and one person comes up afterwards and says, come to me, you will do as much business next year as you did this year. If 2 people come up, you will double your business. All of this, virtually all of this, because someone heard me speak and liked it. But, I hear you say, wait, I'm a better speaker than you, and I'm not speaking globally. Or I know speakers that are much better than you, but they don't speak globally, so this is not true. But it is. Look at I went through every single speech and look at how did I get it. It's by doing a good speech. We just had a talk in Singapore, me and Magnus, and they said, you seem to have a very good strategy on going global. I have no strategy. And Magnus very clearly said to me, maybe you don't know about it, I remember this. Maybe you don't know about it, but somehow you did something. So after we had that discussion, I sat down and said, okay, maybe I did something differently. And what I realized, the one thing that I did differently from 2008 to today, compared to the speaker I was from 1995 to 2008, the only thing that changed is I changed my mindset. I changed my mindset from saying I am going to be I am a Swedish speaker, and instead I said to myself, I am a global speaker. No. That's not what I said. I did not say I'm going to be a global speaker. I said I am a speaker. I'm not a Swedish speaker, I am a speaker. And I am going to try to be a great speaker. And when that mindset changed, subconsciously everything changed. And that's why I'm doing this speech in English. And that is why if you go to YouTube, every video that I have uploaded, there are other videos that someone else has uploaded, but every video that you find on me on YouTube is in English. Now you ask yourself this question, are your videos on YouTube in Swedish or in English? And if they are in Swedish, why don't you think you're getting any global business? But do you think that your Swedish clients won't book you if you only have an English video? Of course not. They will like it more because it looks like you're now a global speaker. YouTube is not a local Swedish TV channel. It's a global thing, this global thing called the internet. And that's how I went from sitting in Singapore and speaking in Bangladesh. So subconsciously I changed it. Subconsciously I started sending my newsletter only in English, not in Swedish. And when I published my last book that just came out, but just happened to be on the subject of being a global speaker, it's called I'm Not a Global Company, and the title is One World, One Company, I wrote the book in English. I didn't even write a Swedish edition, I went straight to English. And people say, oh, come on, you can't, your English is not good enough, you can't write a business book in English. I said, screw that, I'm going to get an editor. I wrote it in English, the editor charged me more than he would have done if I had written it in Swedish, but it's my words in English. And you asked the question about how important are books for your business. I don't get business because I wrote the book, but I do sell books. I sold, out of this one, I self-published my book, I sold about more than 15,000 copies. That's 15,000 copies times $25 extra revenue that I didn't have before. Because they now book me for the speech for X amount of dollars, and then they also buy a book for everyone, which is another $5,000 on top of that. It raises my speaker fee. That's how I look at it. Now here's the real reason why I think I've changed my mindset. Because I started to realize, and you should think about this, how much in your speeches, how much of your stories are from not, I mean, I love your speech. There's references from all around the world, but in your speech, ask yourself, how many of your stories are not Swedish related? It's because you met someone else somewhere else. I usually start my speech about talking about creativity. I talk about creativity. Talking about creativity in different parts of the world. And I like to ask people, which country do you think has the lowest level of creative confidence? Because I asked this I've asked this in more than 50 countries. And I said, which country do you think has the lowest level of creative confidence? And people usually guess Korea. And I said, yeah, okay. And then I make a joke. I said, which one, North or South? Or someone in the audience, usually in the back, says, North Korea, just to test me. Just to put me, put the rug under me to see if I can reply. So 2 years back, I went to North Korea. Because I wanted to be able to answer them. And it turns out that the people in North Korea has one of the highest level of creative confidence in the world. Every single person I asked thought that they were creative. And when I tell that story, people say, yeah, they had to say that or they would be shocked. Which is probably true. But that's not the point. The point is that they truly believe that they are creative. Because in the North Korean culture, they have something called the Juche idea. And the Juche idea means that the difference between us and animals is that humans are more creative than animals. That's what makes us human. And North Koreans think that they are more humans than the rest of us. They truly believe that they are creative. But now I'm having a discussion with the guy in the left-hand corner who is trying to pull the rug under me by saying North Korea, and I can say I've been to North Korea. And I interviewed people in North Korea, and this is what they told me. And when you have stories in your speech about when you met this guy in India, and when you were in Iran, or when you were in Canada, and you are speaking at a global conference, and there are 500 people in the audience from 83 different countries flown in, they will like your speech because you don't only have references from your home country. I live in Singapore right now. There are so many American gurus being flown in for a ridiculous amount of money from America to speak in Asia. And they use baseball metaphors. We have to step up to the plate. That works great in Japan. They know baseball in Japan, but it doesn't work in the rest of Asia. And then they start to explain baseball. Yeah, when you're going to hit the ball, you step up to the plate. It doesn't work like that. So by picking your stories, and when you write your book, for my One World, One Company book, I went to 18 different countries. I interviewed companies from all American companies, Swedish companies, Emirates in Dubai, a company in China. And I now have in my book references with people I have met and interviewed about how they do business around being a global company from all around the world. Which means your story becomes whole. Everyone can listen to it. And that's a mindset thing. And I read this interview with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was once asked, isn't it difficult to perform from people from all around the world? Isn't it different to go to Germany and have a concert, and then go to Japan and have a concert, and then go to America? Isn't it strange to come to these different cultures and perform? And Michael Jackson said, no. They laugh in the same place, they cry in the same place, they dance in the same place. And it's very, very true. Some people say to me, so how have you culturally changed and adapted your speech for a global audience? That's the most stupid question you can ask someone who wants to speak globally. You shouldn't change anything. Because how do you culturally change a speech if there are 500 people in the audience from 83 different countries? Who are you targeting your speech to? What Michael Jackson understood, and what I learned from him by reading it, is that you shouldn't culturally change anything in your speech. You should have a speech that is not culturally adapted to any culture. You shouldn't have a Swedish speech or an American speech. You should have a speech for human beings. And that will work on everyone. And those are the people who book global conferences, or even pan-European or pan-Asian or pan-American conferences, that's the kind of speakers they want. Because they don't get that one angry person sitting in the left corner saying, why was he only using an American example? And by changing your speech from a Swedish speech to a human speech, not a global speech, a human speech, your theme, your message becomes universal. So now I'm going to end. And I'm going to end, since I am in Sweden, by saying that I think Sweden is the perfect country for a speaker to be born and live in if you want to be a global speaker. We have that mindset. If you tell a Japanese, I think you are un-Japanese, he will be personally insulted. You say that you're an un-American to an American, he will get angry. And if you say to a French that you are un-French, he will hit you. But if you say to a Swede, I think you are un-Swedish, we say, thank you very much. We have somehow in our psyche, our mindset, we are not so stuck on being Swedish, which means it is easier for us to start thinking this way and do speeches like this. And that is, I think, why Swedish speakers are very, very much overrepresented at global conferences. Not only me and Magnus, but many, many more. So, this is me. I am not native in the English language. I have two small kids at home, which means I can't travel all the time. I need to be home with them as much as someone who works 9 to 5. And I am. I'm not a famous household name. You don't book me because you know about Fredrik Haren. You book me because you heard Fredrik Haren's speech and you liked the speech. But the people who introduce, when the moderator introduces me, people don't know who I am. And right there, the guy filming unfortunately ran out of film, well, not film, but tape or hard drive. So the last part of this speech I will have to recollect like this. Basically, I was almost done. I had one more thing to add, and that was that I am very unstructured and lazy. I don't have a process, I don't have a technique, I'm very bad with admin, and I'm very good at following up and things like that. So basically, if an unstructured person like me that is not a household name and which has two small kids he would like to spend a lot of time with and who's not native in the English language, if I can do that, well, so can you. And good luck with that, and thank you very much.
You're very unstructured. How do people contact you and how do you follow up and how do you make sure you're in the right place?
I don't follow up. They send me an email and they say, normally it's like this. They come up to me after a speech and this is amazing, can you come? And they say, do you have a business card? I say, no, sorry, I don't have a business card. But you can give me mine. And so you can give me yours. So they give me yours and then I don't send them an email because I forget about it. And then they email me 3 months later and say, hey, remember we met at a conference, you must have lost my business card. I say, yeah, sorry, I did. Can you come and speak? And I say, yes, I can.
Okay.
I don't have a contract, I don't use
do you
contracts,
have
I
a
don't have a
homepage?
travel agent. I have a homepage, yes.
There's some way on the web that you can
No, you can
find
Google
you.
my name and you find my homepage, which is fredrikharen.com, which is only in English. But and that's what they do. They find me, they Google me. A lot of you, they YouTube me a lot. They see my name, they Google, put it in YouTube, they Google it, they find an email somewhere and they send an email. They don't call me, they just email me.
And then you manage all your travel and everything yourself?
Oh, no, I do everything. I book every flight myself. I book my hotels. I'm hotel.com and everything.
How important is it to adapt to the local audience and how much do you try and find out beforehand?
That's what I said, I don't. I don't. Very, very little. If I speak for Swedes in Swedish, I can swear once in a while because it's nice to go home to Sweden and swear. Because it's the only country you can do that.
You do that a lot.
Yeah, I know. In Swedish only, never in English. Or maybe I do a little bit English too. But no, I try very, very little to change it. I said I spoke in Pakistan. No, in 1 week I spoke in Montreux, Switzerland, Florida, America, and Nigeria, Africa in the same week, in 6 days. And it was 3 totally different speeches for 3 totally different audiences, but it didn't matter which of these speeches were in. I could have done that, those three speeches in other countries. It was the audience that was different because they were different industries, but culturally, a very, very little difference.
Okay.
Yeah,
now, a very practical question. How do you invoice your clients?
Well, I don't.
Or do you? You're lazy,
I don't
you
sign
don't
a
invoice
contract. I don't invoice beforehand. I invoice one time about. I invoice once per month. So if I do a speech in August, I will invoice everyone in September for the speeches I did in August. And yeah, from Singapore. I have an accountant who sends out the invoices.
Questions? Yes, several questions. Let's have the microphone.
Yeah, sure, but your YouTube videos, did you produce them or are they put up on YouTube by someone else?
Which ones?
The YouTube videos that are on YouTube with you.
But which ones? The ones
I don't know. I know you talked about they Google me and they find YouTube videos.
Okay, no, so I have 6 full speeches online, the full speech, all online. I don't believe in demos. I don't believe anyone sends an email to someone and says, oh, look at this demo. No one does that. But a lot of people say, look at this speech. But more importantly, that the full speech is there because one guy hears me speak, goes to this management meeting, oh, I heard this guy speak in France, it's amazing, we need to bring him to Poland, and the other 5 haven't heard me. So then the guy said, well, I'll show you a video on YouTube. And they show a video on YouTube and say, yeah, okay, it looks good. Of course they know that video is not, I mean, seeing a concert on TV is not the same as being there, so they know it's going to be better live than on YouTube, but at least then I can now see, and they don't see a trailer or an advertisement, they see the whole thing. So 6 videos, and then I have a bunch of the video, the one video that you saw, that was that me traveling around the world, and I do all of those on my iPhone and by myself on planes when I'm bored.
So those 6 YouTube videos, you put them up yourself on YouTube?
Yeah, some of them, some of my clients also put them up. Sometimes the client puts them up. But I say no to a lot of videos online, but I want to approve the video before I put it online. But I full speeches and then a lot of branding videos like me traveling around the world, so they can see this guy travels around the world.
And you have your contact info on YouTube?
Huh?
Do you put your contact info in the videos or on YouTube?
I don't even know.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Yes.
Who else has a question?
Yeah. Both you and Magnus were mentioning that it's only referrals and it's mainly like that type of business, like I'm saying. But I mean, like your speech capital that you built up during all these years, all these hundreds of speeches, and the things online and what people find when they Google your name, that must be like a really important part in taking the decision to contact you.
No, well, I would say no, because
Yeah.
for the first 10 years I only spoke in Swedish and I didn't have any videos in Swedish. And when I moved to Beijing, I didn't know a single person in China. And no one knew me. And when I moved from China to Singapore, I didn't know a single person in Singapore, 0. I came by as a single man, came in and said, hi, how does this country work? But when I moved to Singapore, mindset, I wasn't going to be a Singaporean speaker. 5% of my business is Singapore. 95% is outside Singapore. So no, it's not about, they don't care how long no one cares how long you've spoken. They only care, you can start speaking tomorrow, and if that's a great speech, they will book you for that. And then I've been speaking for, this guy is speaking for 25 years, he's an old tired man, no one wants to hear him. So no, that had nothing to do
So you don't think like the books you published, like the YouTube videos?
I ask every time, why did you call me, why did you email me, why do you want me to come to speech? And I did that for all of these 80 speeches. And for me, that's extremely structured to do this for this speech, okay? And every single one, that nothing came from, oh, we saw you've been speaking for so long. Nothing, 0.
You mentioned that you don't have contracts.
Yeah.
Can you say something more about that?
I don't have contract.
Yeah, okay.
What is this to say? Why would you need a contract? It's stupid to do. It's a lot of work, and it's, I get, what do you call it? The anti-goosebumps from contract. It annoys me, and when would it help?
Yeah.
Right? And if they want to cancel a speech, why would I? No, we have a contract. They would maybe pay you, but will never book you again. So I say, okay, they can cancel me the day before. But they never do. In 1 year, I have maybe one person cancel a speech that kind of pisses me off. But, compared to having to write 80 contracts and send them out and make sure I get them back signed and blah, 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 it's not worth it. I don't even have insurance.
So, sorry, so if you by some reason would be ill or something and you can't do your assignment, what happens?
I have never been sick. I will go there, I don't care how, I've been sick like hell, and I've been on that stage. When the volcano erupted, remember that?
Yeah.
In Iceland, I was in Stockholm, I was going to do a speech in Singapore 2 days later, and every single flight was cancelled for a week. But I saw, shit, there's a volcano, I need to get home, and I need to get home now. So I called my brother and I said, let me borrow your car, let's go to Germany. He and I drove non-stop like this for 40 hours down to the south of Germany, where I jumped on a train and took a train from Germany to Istanbul, which is like Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, and all those countries. And then after 40 hours of train, after 40 hours of car, well, I guess it was 3 days later I was going to speak. I jumped on a plane in the only airport in Europe that was open, Istanbul, and I flew back. I was the only speaker at that conference from Europe. I will be there. I can tell you stories like that.
That's a good story.
I think that story should be the end of this beautiful speech. I will be there, because that's a message to all of us. Thank you so much, Fredrik.